Is it really true? Am I going to sing at Bayreuth? This is a letter I wrote to my family back on Tuesday, August the 2nd, 1960, from Bayreuth, Germany. Dearest Mother and Daddy, so much has happened in the last 10 days, I hardly know how to begin this letter. I am so full of things to tell, I wish I could just let it all come tumbling out at the same time. I don't know when I have ever been so happy, and I sometimes have to pinch myself to realize that this isn't all just a beautiful dream, but it is really happening to me. Even though I was only singing Ortlinde, I couldn't have had a more thrilling operatic debut, and this wonderful evening will always live in my memory and shine brightly down through the years. I know you must have been praying for me that day, because I could feel it so strongly, and I thought about you all day long. The third act did not begin until 9 o'clock, so I walked up to the Festival house about 7:15 and got into my costume. Then we had one last musical rehearsal at 8:20. The music is so tricky in this scene, and the cues come so thick and fast that no matter how well you know it, you always welcome one more rehearsal. As I think I told you before, we are so far back on the stage and so high up that we must almost anticipate the conductor's beat in order to come in right with the orchestra, much of which is completely underneath the stage. By the time we finished the warm-up, so to speak, they were buzzing for us to come down to the stage, so away we went. The curtain opens with only 4 of us on stage, so we 4 climbed up and took our positions, and then Wolfgang, bless his heart, came to each one of us and shook our hands and wished us success. I'll never forget this as long as I live. After that, I would have sung myself to death for him. Then came that breathless moment when he gave the signal to begin. This was in turn relayed to Kemper, and outside we heard that glorious orchestra rip into the opening chords of Act 3, and the ride of the Walküres was on. With the sound of that first note, my heart began to pound as though it would burst through my flesh. I bowed my head for one last time and asked God to help me to do a good job, and in so doing, to glorify His name. I could hardly believe that at long last this wonderful moment was upon me. For months I have been waking up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, asking myself, is it really true? Am I going to sing at Bayreuth? And am I really worthy of this wonderful opportunity? In those few moments before the curtain opened, my whole life passed before me. It is a moment and a feeling almost impossible to describe. My brain was reeling, and then I realized that the beautiful gray velvet curtain was beginning to part, and we were revealed to the audience. So it was true after all. Here I was on the Bayreuth stage, and within a matter of minutes I would be singing my opening lines. All of a sudden, a wonderful calmness enveloped me. My head was clear and cool, and everything was going wonderfully well. Finally, Nilsson made her entrance with Löfberg, the Sieglinde, and the minute she began to sing and that glorious voice poured out of her, I couldn't help thinking that she could probably outsing all of us 8 Walküres with one hand tied behind her back. Or should I say one vocal cord, ha. This is really the voice of the century. Jerome Hines made a magnificent Wotan, and he was so ferocious in his pursuit of Brunhilde that when he made his entrance, he scared me so I almost forgot to sing. He is still as nice as ever and is so down to earth and friendly. He likes to kid me by calling me the smallest Walküre in the world. After the opera, Friedland had a photographer take pictures of me in costume, and then she gave a lovely party for me afterwards in the restaurant. I forgot to mention that when I arrived in my dressing room before the performance, there were 3 telegrams waiting for me, from Carol, Jean Smith in Salzburg, and Randy Simpson in Paris, and 3 gorgeous bouquets of flowers, beautiful pink carnations from Friedland, and a lovely nosegay from Ed Downs, and another from a good friend of Friedland's who lives in Munich and always attends opening week at Bayreuth. I met her here last summer when she entertained master classes at a dinner party, and the day I signed my Bayreuth contract in Munich last October, Friedland and I had visited her to celebrate, so I thought it was a lovely gesture on her part to send flowers. My acting teacher, Frau Laux, who had worked so hard with me on the stage movements and on my diction, also left me a sweet present, and on the card was written the opening lines that I sing. The present was a little carved wooden horse, and my opening line refers to my steed. So it was very thoughtful and much appreciated gift, one that I will always treasure. Needless to say, being so far away from home, I certainly did not expect all this attention, so it was quite a thrill for me. After the pictures were made, I donned my beautiful blue net evening dress and with all my flowers and telegrams headed for the restaurant where everyone awaited me. I had to walk the length of the room and then go down a wide staircase into the lower level where our table was set up. After I had covered about a third of the distance, all of a sudden, all the people that were still dining began to applaud. I know they had no idea who I was, but I guess with 3 bouquets of flowers in my arms and a big smile on my face, I must have looked like a celebrity. Of course, Friedland and everyone in the lower level turned around to see who was approaching, and when she saw it was me, she started clapping too and laughed gaily, as did the rest of our party. So it was quite a grand entrance. Frau Laux leaned over after I sat down and whispered to me, "You came down those steps like a queen." Of course, she really gets the credit because we have worked on just this thing in acting class. Well, we had a fabulous dinner. Mock turtle soup, Chateaubriand, a wonderful red wine, a marvelous kind of ice cream for dessert, and to top the whole thing off, a couple of bottles of champagne. I couldn't have been treated more royally if I had been the Queen of England. And of course, With every sip of champagne, someone would get up and make a toast. Ed Downs got up and said he wanted to make a toast to the prettiest Walküre he ever met, which I thought was awfully sweet. He is really a wonderful person, and I enjoyed getting to know him so much while he was here. He gave 6 marvelous lectures to master classes and was also here to cover the opening week for the New York Times. I don't believe I will ever again enjoy such a full measure of happiness packed and jammed into a few wonderfully magical hours. If my life and career was suddenly cut short, I could have no regrets, for I feel that I have already known the ultimate in joyful living. Even now I know that there can never be another night to equal this particular one in my life, July 27th, 1960. Friedland is surely my guardian angel. How can I ever repay her for all she has done for me? In addition to all this, she and Carol gave me a beautiful charm for my bracelet, the 2 masks of comedy and tragedy in gold, which are so symbolic of the stage. There just never seems to be an end to her wonderful deeds, and she always does everything just exactly right. Last Saturday, Carol and I sang in a concert at Wanfried, performing some early Wagner songs that he wrote in Paris in 1839. A very select audience was invited, including the Begum of the Aga Khan, critics, etc. Also performing was Bruce Hungerford, the famous Australian pianist, and Tasso Antonakos, a Greek baritone who was also studying with Frau Salmar in Graz. And when Friedland heard about him, she invited him to attend master classes for the summer. When each one of us finished our selections, she had one of her adorable nieces or nephews, and one of them looks just like Liszt, present us with a beautiful nosegay. Afterwards, our pictures were taken, and they appeared in the Bayreuth paper yesterday. Then we all drove to the restaurant and were entertained at a fabulous luncheon by the Begum. She is as charming as ever. On July 21st, there was also a very good article about master classes in the Bayreuth Frankische Press, the Atlanta Journal of Bayreuth, and the whole first paragraph is about me. It's really very funny and interesting. I will send you and Dr. Dewey a copy, and you can get Dr. Dewey to translate the German for you. There was only one mistake in the article. I got promoted from Ortlinde to Ortrud, which is the leading mezzo role in Lohengrin, and which is being performed here this year by Astrid Varney. Paul Moore, the Berlin correspondent for Time and Life, was here again to cover opening week, and he was at the Wanfried concert. He also came over to congratulate me in the restaurant after my performance, which I thought was very nice. He told me Saturday that he had included a line about me in his story that he sent in, but I frankly doubt that it will ever make it to the linotype machine because everything that is sent in to Time is so drastically edited. However, he said it would be on the newsstands Wednesday, that is tomorrow, August 3rd, so when your issue comes, scan the Bayreuth write-up and do send me the clipping regardless. I also would love to have the one that Ed Downs writes, which will probably appear in next Sunday's New York Times, August 7th. Maybe Dr. Dewey will know someone who subscribes in Atlanta that would clip this out for me. I will not be mentioned in this, but would just like to have it anyway for a souvenir of this summer. Yesterday I was up in the cantina behind the Festival house, and the reporter from Opera News came over and introduced himself and said he was so sorry he didn't know about my debut party, as he would have come and taken pictures for the magazine. So I showed him the pictures I had in my costume, and he grabbed a couple and asked if he might have them for Opera News. So I, of course, said yes. There's one with me and Friedland together that I think he will use. Well, I think that is enough excitement for 1 week. I have now more or less recovered and have gone back to working on the Stravinsky role for Darmstadt. Boy, do I dread to pack. Carol says she's leaving town the day I begin. Gene Smith arrives around the 12th to sing for Wieland and Wolfgang. Can hardly wait to see him. We'll write again soon. Lots of love. P.S. All the performances are so wonderful this summer. Die Meistersinger is really beautiful, and Elizabeth Grummer makes such a charming Ava. And The Ring, even though it is a strictly unrealistic production in style, is really fantastic in its scope. Nilsson outdoes herself with the three Brunhilde roles. After Gerda Damerung the last evening of The Ring, the audience stamped their feet and applauded for 30 minutes, and finally they had to turn the house lights out to make the people leave. Wolfgang and Kemper also took many bows along with the principals, and this was really Wolfgang's night. I was so happy for him that he got such a wonderful response, for he has worked so hard. Thanks for returning the color pics. They arrived safe and sound, and we are enjoying them tremendously. I'm sending first set of my Walküre pics to Dr. Dewey, but we'll get a set to you as quickly as possible. The opera news guy, oh my gosh, laughed me up by unexpectedly taking 2 of them. Have received Wesley's letter. Wesley was my dad. Mailed on July 26 and appreciated it so much. You're still in the Union. Have had a nice long letter from Tom Salter, and Annie and Ed are going to have a baby. Also heard from Sidney Thomas, Leo Rosado, Virginia, Mrs. Lucas, and Bronzell. Boy, do I need a secretary. We'll number your pics when I send them and keep a record of which is which, so if you need any extra ones for family or friends, I can order them for you, but the time is short, so if you want any more, write immediately when you get this.
Victor!